Chapter 10. Am I dead? Is it over? Am I dead? I asked, finally back in reality after what turned out to be 9 straight hours in the haze.
You're not. I couldn't let Madrien die like that. Not after everything you two have been through. She is alive and well, and someplace safe. But are you all right?
That demon from my nightmares, Callum. I saw him. It felt so real when he held me by the throat. I shakingly pressed my palms into my neck, checking that it's okay, checking that somehow the game didn't permeate to real life, that no real wounds are on my actual body. I gotta go. I hung up the phone and went to the bathroom to look in the mirror. After carefully looking for wounds, I looked in the mirror at my reflection and stared. I felt I had to remind myself who I truly was. Not quite as young, not quite as fit. All the flaws that were hidden in the game were now in full display. That woman that I was. Madrien. She was who I wanted to be. That game revealed my deepest and innermost thoughts about who I was. At that moment I was absolutely certain. Josh was living in denial. He wanted to be a girl. I let that thought sink in as I walked the dog in bright daylight that shed away the dark memories of the game. Though I now knew what killed Isabella, I had met with it. I still didn't know how it killed Josh, too. The death of your character shouldn't mean the death of you. After all, the injuries my character sustained in the game did not appear in real life. Maybe Josh was connected to Isabella on another level than any of us, I wondered. I just wished I could have done something back then. I wish I could have defended Isabella when Josh was still alive, to have defeated all of his demons, if only I had a bit more open-minded. If only I had plugged in sooner and learned about his world, maybe I could have helped him. I finally understood Callum when he says it's not just a game. Indeed, it stopped being a game for me. It stopped being a game when I found traces of my son there. It stopped being a game when I lost my breath there. Whoever that Dark Lord was, the creator or just a player on a fucked-up power trip, I wanted him to die. I wanted him to suffer. I wanted to kill him and stare at his dead body the same way he stared at Isabella. Would that give my son justice? Is that why you left me the items in the letter, Josh? To avenge Isabella? Well, then I have fucked up your plans, Josh. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes and reimagined that scenario in that dark throne room. Reimagined Madrien sticking a sword into the Dark Lord's heart. Maybe if I wasn't so afraid. Even if I didn't let the Lightkeepers take away those items, maybe if I just a bit more brave, I wish there was another way to destroy it. Maybe, for it didn't need to die for him to be destroyed. Sometimes there is greater torture in life than death, as the pillar prisoners would attest. He could kill all the Lightkeepers if he wanted to, I figured, but their existence gives him joy. So what if they all suddenly stopped playing? What is a game world without players? Nothing. An empty server, a soulless world. All of his demons, his dragons, his army that he boasts shall amount to nothing. It may not be what Josh had in mind, but it would be my way of doing things. The moment the idea struck me, I pitched it to Callum. I don't know how to help you with that, Melinda, said Callum. Short of convincing the Lightkeep to attack the Darkkeep?
I don't know how to help you with that, Melinda. Short of convincing the Lightkeep to attack the Darkkeep. Even on the off chance that it works, it means we'd be destroying a whole world that still has life in it. Is that what you want?
Every story should have an end. But all these players have been waiting for an author to move the plot. But if the author is the Dark Lord, that never does. He never will. He just keeps them in this cruel cycle for his sick power trip. Well, then I think these players need to move the plot themselves. That's what this whole game is about, isn't it? Creating your own stories? The bravery of their characters. They can do that, just like Josh did. Now is their time to stand up for themselves. Stand up for Isabella. Stand with Josh.
I'm worried that if we do this and the server shuts off, then this game world shall be forgotten, faded out of memory in time. No one will ever know this wonderful place once existed. Is that what you really want?
I won't let it happen, Callum. I promise you. None of it shall be forgotten. I'll write the story of the Haze.
You? What do you know about the Haze?
Not a lot, but enough to know that it's really about who we truly are inside. I thought about it a lot after last time, and I think Josh wanted to be a woman, I said finally. Callum didn't answer. I sighed, a little embarrassed to even broach the subject. I know it's a difficult issue to talk about, but I honestly believe that.
But how? How can you be so sure?
I can't. It's just what I believe in. Call it Mom's intuition. I guess I couldn't do it in real life. Well, maybe he was afraid of what it would mean. Maybe he just didn't know that the game revealed his true emotions. Maybe if he had known, he would have done something about it. So instead, he found the most extreme and intense type of escapism that he could find. And there it was so much easier to be that person he wanted to be. He was just treated as he presented himself. A woman. That's what I believe in. And that's why I won't let the Haze be forgotten, because it's an integral part of my son's life and death. And so are you, Callum. But his story, your story, and our story will only be powerful if we can find a way to end it. A way to break the cycle.
Shit.
What?
Well, I just had an idea for you, but that will require my participation.
What's the problem with that?
When I logged back in, I felt the addiction rush in me again. I was so afraid of that feeling. I guess part of the reason why I stayed so close to your son is to somehow stay connected to the game world. I guess that I was out without actually being out. I was playing through him. He kept me connected, telling me what's going on, made me feel I was still a part of it. Anyway, in a way, I never really left.
If we manage to destroy the world, Callum, you will be free of it. It will help you rip the bandage out once and for all. Please help me with this one. I can't do it alone.
Okay, I will help you, but I won't be doing it alone either. We need some of the older players to help us, those who haven't played in the game world for ages. I know them all well, many of them still with living characters. Those are who we need. I will get the veterans out of retirements.
How will you do that?
I'll write to tell them the story of Josh and Isabella. If I'm convincing enough, I believe they will come back to fight for you or for legacy of their characters, if not both, and we will have one final showdown to end it all. It will be a final epic battle, the forces of light versus the forces of darkness, good versus evil, like in all those epic stories.
Chapter 11. A Meeting of Old Heroes.
Madrien woke up to the crackling of a campfire, her body still marked by the scars and bruises, souvenirs of her long journey, though they were finally starting to heal. She was in a refuge, a secret garden in the middle of nowhere, seemingly unrelated to any place she'd seen before, save for the dark skies that seemed to be a constant, inescapable presence. She wasn't exactly sure how she got there, for she could only recall that she was saved by a stranger, but that stranger was no longer there.
I opened my eyes in what appeared to be a forest clearing, surrounded by shrubs, ferns, mushrooms, tall grass tufts, rose bushes, and even a small pond with a very large oak tree at its center. The whole place was enclosed within a copse of trees, their thick trunks packed so closely together that they almost rubbed the bark off one another, and their leafy branches meshed above them to create a single shady canopy. It was as though they created a barrier for the forest clearing, dimming and hiding it from the rest of the terror of the world. This place was so different, a solace from all the barren wastelands, the chaos, fire, and the haze. It was calm and quiet. I looked about it and noticed I wasn't alone. There was a white stag wandering the clearing, as well as one or two badgers, a falcon overhead, and butterflies fluttering about. Compared to the terror I felt before, this place was a relief. I gently approached the stag and reached out my hand. The animal was calm and trusting, allowing me to touch his soft fur. I stopped and smelled the roses, all too literally. closing my eyes, trying again to understand if I could really smell the fragrance, or if it was all a really sophisticated illusion. Yet it felt so real. I felt as though I'd woken up in this world for the first time again. I soaked it all in. Now that was the sort of stuff I could understand, not battling monsters and dealing with evil-likes, but just lying in the grass and patting cute animals. Yep. Now that's the sort of games I could get used to. I washed my face in the refreshing water of the pond, when I suddenly heard a rustle from the bushes, and my eyes jumped open immediately. I looked at where the rustle was coming from. A very short-statured individual was standing there, with a cartoonishly long nose, a buckler, and a short sword.
Hello.
I rubbed my eyes. Greeting to you, I said. Are you a hobbit?
Hobbit? What's a hobbit?
Well, they're small and have hairy feet, and I think they live in holes in the ground.
Ah, yes. I think you mean to say halfling. That's how they're called here. You shouldn't really use that other term here.
The gnome looked about worriedly, with shifty eyes, as though hoping no one was watching.
No, I'm not quite a halfling, if you will, milady. I'm a gnome. I'm afraid there are no more halflings left, you see. A few used to live with us in our hidden town of Caragorn back in the old days, but they haven't been around for a while now. I think they have passed on to legends, you might say. Then again, I haven't seen any of my own kinfolk in Caragorn either. It would seem I am the only gnome left in this world. At any rate, I am Flint, and I've heard your calling. It is you, right? You are the one from the prophecy?
Yes, it's me.
Good. So I've come to fight the darkness.
He brandished his small, yet fitting to his size, sword and buckler shield, which contorted my lips to a broad and hearty smile. Thank you, Flint.
Where are the others? Is it just you and me?
Another rustle. A large man walked in from the bushes, bearded, wide-shouldered, with somewhat disheveled hair, dressed in chainmail armor, with a green-brown vest and a green-brown tattered cloak. He stretched his back like an old man with a pained smile.
Ah, 'tis good to breathe the fresh air again, huh?
He leaned back and raised his hands into the air, as though he was lifting an imaginary slab of stone.
I feel alive once again. Yes, ha 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 ha!
Hello? I said, interrupting his celebration. The man's smile wiped off his face the second he saw me, looking at me with wide eyes.
You're the one of which the prophecy spoke,
he said in a serious tone, moving closer to get a better look at me.
You are the harbinger of our doom, set to bring about the final war of mankind against the darkness, the ends of all ends.
He slowly cracked a smile again.
Heck, well, it's about damn time we attacked those evil bastards. Ha! My name is Gattling, by the by.
He extended for a handshake and shook my hand with a strong grasp.
Sergeant Gattling, to be exact. Well, that was the rank I used to have when I left here. Probably lots has changed since, and now some twinkle-toed fledgling is now sergeant. But you know, I will always be a sergeant in these lands,
he announced, then spat in the grass. I am Madrien, I said. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad you came.
Sergeant Gattling, it's good to see you.
Gattling squinted at the gnome.
Where do I know you from, little one? I have seen you before, this much is certain.
A discount? No, good sir. All prices are already after discount.
Yes, now I remember. You were that trader from that gnomish village, always bringing contraptions and magic to Coffinwoad.
Indeed, though I fear that magic has now dwindled in Caragorn.
A lot has changed, and not for the good.
Do you know Isabella? I asked.
Of course I know Bella. I've never met a better warrior in my life. I knew her even before her reputation began preceding her, before she was made into a living legend.
Isabella,
muttered Flint, pacing about pensively.
Where do I know that name from?
Wait. Was she a woman with red hair?
Yes.
A sword-wielding type with a red cloak?
Yes, I affirmed.
Ah, so we're probably speaking about Alstromeria. That's how we used to call her, us gnomes. She knew the secret passageway that led to Caragorn. She even used to come there when I was the only gnome left there, after everyone else had left. She was the only company I had at times. Where is she?
Is she even alive?
I shook my head.
Oh, dear.
Flint's expression soured into sadness. Gattling nodded stoically.
Somehow she always seemed to escape death. Her skills would always save her. But you can't escape death for too long. Not in this foul place. I've seen too many deaths here. All my comrades died in the Great War of Coffinwoad. Everything we built was ruined. They had nearly wiped out the race of men.
Is that the reason you left, I asked?
Aye. Too much has changed for me here. It was no longer the same place I fell in love with. I no longer felt like myself here. I had to leave. I never thought I'll see this place ever again. When I saw that vision of you, that told me of the final war. I had no doubt in my heart. I had to answer the calling, so here I am. It would be my pleasure to fight for the last time against the darkness. Yes, most certainly.
Breathing the air, feeling his old sword again.
It's a long time coming, that war. Where are all the others? Is this everyone?
He looked at me and Flint.
Just the three of us, huh?
There was yet another rustle in the bushes, even louder than Gattling's arrival, and a great number of folks made their exodus into the clearing to join us.
Friends of old were beginning to gather in the secret garden. Heroes that haven't walked this earth for ages. They've been in exile for a long time. Most of them were humans, but also a few elves that caught Madrien's attention. Among them there was even one dwarf that was rather disappointed he was the only one of his kinfolks to attend. They spoke of the same vision that guided them back in the Haze for a final battle, and in that vision a lady, Madrien, who represented the omen of the final war.
The last man who showed up was a hooded man, dressed in metal and leather armor. He had galloped into the clearing atop a black horse, and dismounted right next to me. He moved his hood to reveal a scruff beard, a cleft chin, and long black hair. It was my rescuer. We didn't say a word to each other, but his eyes flickered as his gaze met mine. It was Callum's character, Rhetoric. He handed me the reins to the horse. As soon as I climbed on top of it, the horse bolted off.
Ride forth into the keep, Madrien. We shall come when you blow the horn.
The horn? I looked at the side of the horse and saw that indeed a wooden blowing horn, with artistic etches of winding and twisting patterns, was strapped to the horse. Chapter 12. The Return. I saw the light of the Citadel on the horizon, beaming and gleaming, beckoning me forward. The black stallion was so fast that parts of my armor flying away, shoulder and elbow pads torn apart, as though they were unshelling my past.
A rider approacheth,
yelled the guard. I rode over the drawbridge and into the light keep, then led the steed to the center square, where onlookers had already gathered. At the top of the tall battlement of the main keep stood the steward, with Baden next to him, their wide eyes betraying their disbelief at my return.
You made it through,
said Roald, his voice cracking with surprise and admiration, and his expression far different than it was when he first laid eyes on me.
You've seen the darkness on the other side. I can see it in your eyes. Tell us, did you find what you were looking for?
I looked around at all the faces peering back at me. I did not find Isabella in the land of fire and darkness, but I found the demon who killed her. 'Twas the Lord of Darkness himself. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Voices started murmuring.
You have met the Dark Lord face to face?
Yes.
How on earth are you still alive?
The light guided me through.
You must truly have something special about you, Madrien. Some guardian angel beyond our understanding if you managed to escape the deadly grasp of the Dark Lord. Tell us, why have you come back here?
To end the darkness that you live in. Now that I have seen it, I understand what must be done. We must put an end to this darkness.
You would ask the Light Keep to attack the Dark Lands? How dare you? Is the death of one Light Keeper not enough for you? You desire more to die?
He raised his voice, his face turning red. I looked at Aundria standing there beside Roald, lowering her head in sadness, while tears came streaming down her face. Did Ranson die?
No, Madrien. We cannot win this fight. I will not send my people to their deaths. Behind these walls we are divinely protected. Behind these walls light shall endure.
I looked around at them, at their posture and faces, their reluctance and unwillingness to take actions. I understand you are all very afraid. You are afraid of what will come after, what will happen when it all will end. This is the only place you know, the only life you know. But there is more after the end. There is more than living under the darkness. You must dare to make things happen, to make a change. If you don't do it, no one will. Now is that time.
Who are you to say when it is time?
Asked Roald angrily, turning back at me.
Who are you to send all my people to their doom?
I am one who has failed. I failed Isabella, but I will not fail again. I grabbed the horn from the stallion and blew it as loudly as I could, until its timbre reverberated loudly across the citadel and beyond. Nothing happened. No one spoke, only frowns and confused faces. I blew it again, even harder than before. Something was suddenly heard from the distance, a galloping of horses. There was a confusion in the citadel as lightkeepers were rushing for the battlements to see what it was. They could see something in the distance. Coming through the haze and the darkness was a host of 30 strong, at least, on their horses, riding at full speed toward us. As they came closer and closer, Roald clenched his jaw.
What is the meaning of this?
My liege?
What have you begotten, Madrien? Roll up the drawbridge.
No, I screamed. Look again. You know these people. You know them. As Roald gazed at the horizon, shock was beginning to transform his face. With the glimmer in his eyes, I had no doubt he had recognized those faces.
It cannot be. How is this possible?
My lord, your orders?
Asked the guard. Roald held his hand up to keep the drawbridge open, shock still drawn on his face as he watched the horizon. The riders entered the light keep. The lightkeepers marveled at them. Among them were a few elves, even a dwarf and gnome who came riding on the same horse. But above all, they were in awe of those men and women who have returned. Men and women who only lived in the old town of Coffinwood before it became the Dark Keep, survivors of that great war. Sergeant Gattling and Captain Roderick amongst them. Many of the lightkeepers were too fresh to know who they were, but the older ones, Baden and Roald amongst them, were dumbfounded.
You chose exile.
Our paths have been repurposed. We were called upon to fight one last time, to fight for our immortality.
Roderick's voice rang loudly and strongly throughout the citadel.
Fight with us and claim your glory. Let it be known that you shall live in fear no longer.
You abandoned us.
And if it wasn't for this war, we would have stayed in the shadows. But we're here now, as many as 30 of the finest warriors that ever graced this land. That means something, doesn't it?
And what does it mean?
That this call for war is greater than any of us.
Roald clenched his jaw in the moments of silence that followed. He gazed at the crowd. He saw as the new generation stood side by side with the old generation. He himself, a medium of both.
Lightkeepers, who amongst you wants to fight?
Swords and axes and various other weapons rose up into the air at the same moment the question was asked. Not even one lightkeeper had kept their weapons down at that moment.
My lord,
spoke Baden at the steward's side.
Whatever decision you take, we shall follow. We are loyal to you to the end.
It seems the fate of the Light Keep is no longer in my hands.
As he rested his hands on the battlements in front of him, and let the intermediary silence that captivated the moment sink in for a while, a type of silence he might never hear again. For then Roald drew his sword and held it high up in the air.
Then we fight!
A loud burst of cheers emerged through the Light Keep. Chapter 13. Preparations for Battle. From Josh's journal. Those are the moments to live for. The clash of good versus evil. One day, as a group of hideous demonic hellspawns appeared, behind the gaming mast, I was terrified.
I was truly risking her life at this point. Though it was a game, it was permadeath. It meant that if she would die, she would be gone forever, and I could never play her again. But I had to keep going. I knew that's what Isabella would do. I couldn't fake her personality. That would defeat the purpose of everything. I must stay true to her traits. Bravery, fearlessness, grace and beauty. I have to do what she would do.
Or I'm not playing her right. I would be breaking my loyalty to her. So Isabel showed no signs of fear, as though the gods themselves guided her steps. Her eyes flickered with a hint of divine guidance. Her iron grip on the hilt sword tightened. She appeared into the very sight of these foul demons, surprised as they were, her cloak majestically blowing in the wind, letting the hell-spawns get a good look at her. Her poise, her fearlessness, her swagger. She stood still and stared at their eyes. How I loved this moment. She was good, they were evil. She was beautiful, they were ugly.
Those are the moments I lived for.
Aundria led me to the Lightkeep graveyard on a hill by the Temple of Light. She did not say a word to me as we walked through the tombstones until we reached a particular one.
There,
she said, pointing down at it and shaking her head. Branson the Brave was chiseled on the tombstone.
He succumbed to his injuries on the way back, but I still carried him back hither. Despite the fact the enemy was on our trail, I somehow escaped. I don't know how I did it. Maybe like the Nameless Warrior, it was a miracle. Or maybe someone, or something, was watching over me.
I'm sorry, I said.
Are you?
She snapped. What do you mean?
Don't be sorry. You don't mean it anyway. You do not care for us, do you? All you care about is precious Isabella. You would have the Lightkeep burn in hellfire if you were to have whatever answer it is you're looking for. Isn't that so?
I never meant for anyone else to get hurt in this.
Yet you told the Darkkeepers where to find us while we were fleeing, didn't you? We put our lives at risk to help you reach those darned black gates, and you handed us over to them.
It was the only way forward, Aundria, I swear.
Are we not worthy of your concern as well, Madrien? Do you even have tears to shed for Barudarg and Branson, who went with you to the depths on behalf of your insane quest? Or is it only Isabella worthy of your tears?
I did not wish for them to die, I said, my voice cracking with heartbreak as I remembered my traveling companions. You think me heartless, but I'm not. I really wish none of this had happened.
Yet it did.
Aundria clenched her jaw and turned away from me to gaze at the battle preparations taking place below us. We both watched it for a moment in silence.
I don't know how you're doing what you're doing, how you found those items, or how you managed to stay alive, Madrien. I really don't. But I cannot deny that you appear to be somehow special. In truth, I am not angry with you. I was for a little while, but not anymore. I was so sure you died there that when I saw you actually come back, I was even thinking that maybe the same spirit that spared your life had spared mine for some reason. Maybe what's happening now is beyond me, beyond any of us, and there is a reason that we were all spared in the great grand scheme of all things. I believe there is a reason I'm still alive. I only wish I knew what that reason was.
She frowned and looked up and down at me, taking notice that I was wearing no armor and carrying no weapon.
Maybe I do know the reason. Madrien, is this how you mean to fight?
I haven't thought about that, I said. My sword broke.
No. That piece of junk was no good to begin with.
Can you get me a new sword?
Of course. No Lightkeeper should fight barehanded.
I am not a Lightkeeper, I said.
Then I shall make you one.
Do you think I deserve that?
What I think matters not. If you are going to battle with us, you must do so garbed in the Lightkeep coat of arms. You are no longer an outsider, Madrien. Will you take the oath to become a Lightkeeper?
Yes, of course.
Then kneel.
I knelt. Aundria drew her sword and rested it on my shoulder.
Now, repeat after me.
I swear, I repeated as she spoke the words to me.
To be a light in the
to
darkness.
be a light in the
A beacon of
darkness.
hope in the
A
storm
beacon of hope
chaos.
in a storm of chaos.
To be honorable and respectful
I pledge to be honorable and respectful to my fellow lightkeepers, to seek justice with prudence, to be fearless in the eyes of evil, and to always tread in the path of righteousness.
Rise now, Madrien. Rise as a lightkeeper.
I stood and looked at her with admiration and sincerity, honored by her gesture.
Good. Now come with me. I shall make you fit for battle.
She led me back to her chambers in the Light Keep. As high-ranking militia, she was afforded more private space, furnished with a large armoire, a few chairs, a bench, and a mirror. The wall was adorned with 2 crossing swords and a banner that proudly exhibited the symbol of the Light Keep, a stone fortress.
I was asked to keep these in a safe place,
Aundria said, walking over to a curious bundle of something in the corner, covered with a large cloth. When she whisked the cloth away, Isabella's armor, sword, and shield glistened from the reflection of the nearby fire.
No one is supposed to wear it, but I believe it is rightfully yours.
The items! I had nearly forgotten about them, but the moment I saw them, I felt elated, a sort of small victory in my heart. I grabbed the armor with joy of reuniting with it and fastened it on me. I was once again equipped in Isabella's armor, my armor, though this time the cloak was yellow instead of red, with Lightkeep's emblem of a fortress. Sword in one hand, shield in the other, I was almost battle-ready. I looked at the mirror and felt there was one thing missing. I have a request, I said. Could you braid my hair? I want to be beautiful for this.
What? Beautiful? We're going to war, not for a dance.
I know, but when I stand before our enemies, I want it to be clear as day that we are light and they are dark, that we are good and they are evil, that we are beautiful and they are ugly.
You sound just like her, like Isabella. It is as if wearing her armor has given you her voice. Maybe you are indeed some sort of incarnation of hers.
Maybe, I said, then looked away. My half-smile tinged with sadness.
Very well. Sit.
I nodded and took a seat before her.
You know,
she said, as she started braiding my hair,
it's quite amazing that you brought all of them back. Those who chose exile. I never thought I'll see the old militia. Those very names, Captain Rhetoric, Sergeant Gattling, they're like fairy tales heroes to some of us. You would hear about them in stories from the senior members of the Lightkeep, tales of the great wars they fought, or strange stories of things they found in their patrols. It's hard to believe they're here, just seeing them.
As I looked at Aundria, I wonder if there's a player like Josh behind her, a troubled boy, or maybe it's just a girl. Who knew? Whoever it is, she earned what I was about to give her. I took out a stone from my pouch and handed it to her. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, for the discs spoke for themselves. Aundria looked at the disc in surprise, and her eyes glimmered with appreciation. She nodded as the stone disc glowed for a moment, then disappeared.
Come with me, Madrien.
Still smiling at me as she put the last knot in my braid. We walked out of the chamber and into the stable that was in a remote of the courtyard. Aundria turned to me and drew her sword.
Show me your skills.
Shouldn't we use wooden ones for practice?
No, the time for that is behind us. Show me your skills. Attack!
I drew out the sword, a sword so magnificent, I realized I never actually fought with it. Afraid of what it could do, I swung weakly at Aundria, not really wanting to hurt her. She parried with ease and tilted her head at me.
Is that all you got? I thought the Darklands made you stronger.
They did, I said confidently.
Then show me.
I swung harder this time with no restraint, yet she parried again.
Again,
she cried out. When I lunged toward her, she gracefully spun and knocked me away, sending me into a pile of hay.
Well, Madrien, I expected more. Fairy tales aside, you will die when you meet your first orc on the battlefield. If you wish to pay respect for Isabella, kill as many as possible when we clash with them. Die with warrior's glory to your name.
I am not a warrior like you, Aundria. I might only live to survive the first moments of the clash.
No. I want you to kill dozens. Kill as many as you can. You can't do it fighting like this. We need to train you better.
There is no time for this.
Then there is this.
She pulled a disc of her own out of her belt pouch and handed it to me. It glowed brightly, and I felt an explosion of power surging through my body that I didn't feel with any other stone disc. Is that the level up Callum was talking about, I wondered?
Try it now,
said Aundria, charging at me. I somehow managed to spin and avoid her assault. She came at me again, and I parried her hits much better than before, able to react much faster.
Good. Now you attack.
I took a few steps back, then charged toward Aundria, jumped, spun in midair, and landed my sword hard on her shield. I don't know how I was able to do it. I couldn't explain it. But I did it, and it felt good. Aundria stopped, stood still, and grinned.
Now you're ready.
Suddenly the great horn of the Citadel blew, causing the whole stables to vibrate. Some of the horses that were still there started neighing.
It's time.
We sheathed our swords, and Aundria opened a few of the horses' stall doors, which made the horses sprint away freely.
We have more horses than riders. We'll need to set some free.
What about that white horse? I asked.
Funny that you should ask. It used to be Branson's horse. Now, there is no one to ride it.
Can I asked.
That's not up to me. That's up to him.
I walked over to the animal, then gave him a firm pat on the head. Your master is dead. I'm sorry about that. But I think he would have wanted you to help me, and I could really use your help. May I ride you? I whispered in his twitching ear. As if he understood, he neighed and swished his tail once. Good boy. I opened the stall door to let the horse out and mounted him. He didn't seem scared or irritated when I took my place in his saddle. He was a strong, sturdy ride, and he easily followed my lead out of the stables, trotting towards the gates of the Citadel. Being atop that white horse, dressed in the armor of the fallen heroine, I caught the stares of everyone in the Citadel. I was no longer a side plot to them, no longer that crazy woman on the suicide mission, but rather, I was an integral part of their story, and I was met with looks that not only conveyed respect, but awe. As Roald approached the gates on his own horse, he looked over at me, but didn't speak. He seemed too anxious for conversation. He looked at the light keep forlorn, as if bidding a lover farewell, knowing he would probably never see it again. Lutic strummed his lute as his horse walked next to mine on the drawbridge.
All my songs, all my art. Will anyone remember it? We are all going to our deaths now, no? Our stories shall be buried with us. No one will know who we were. What is the point of our lives if we cannot eternalize it somehow? What is the point if all shall be forgotten?
You won't be forgotten, Lutic, I've said. I promise.
You're special, aren't you? Because I believe what you say. Tell me, how will I be remembered?
Sing a song now, any song, and it shall be remembered.
Very well, though I don't know what to sing for such an occasion. You probably want to hear a song about Isabella. Well, I have a few of those, but I don't want to sing songs about her. It will give me false hope that she might still be alive. Oh, what I wouldn't give to see her alive just one more time. No, I do not wish to burden myself with such thoughts. I can't sing anything, yet I fear I'm disappointing the others. After all, bards are supposed to always inspire, though I've always trembled in such times of war. The most important of times, and yet my legs buckle, my vocal folds crackle, and all around they would chuckle. I don't even have a song for such a dark occasion.
Perhaps you could sing what's in your heart.
I don't know if what's in my heart will turn out very inspiring. Well, I can't guarantee it. It actually starts with you,
he said, a bit embarrassed. I want to hear it.
Very well.
He cleared his voice and he strummed his lute, which immediately drew everyone's attention.
She came to our host to rest as a ghost. She had no fear, her vision was clear, determined and brave to go through the haze, to seek out the truth, whatever it took.
Facing those demons, the shadows of hell, in fire and fury, in death and despair, the heroes of old shall break through our fold, and the forces of light shall shine through and bright. To vanquish the evil, purge all the land, will push off the darkness, fight through the end. So the curtains shall fall, thus the truth be unfurled. It'll be the end of it all, the end of the world. Oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, 'tis the end of the world.
Then as a bright beam of light tore through the clouds in the sky, we all left the gates of the Light Keep.
Madrien's armor glistened in the rare bright beams of light that emerged through the sun to the backdrop of the Citadel, her blonde braid resting on her shoulder. Her horse trotted ahead with the banner of the Light Keep in her hand and the army of light behind her.
Joshua, this is for you. This is what you loved. These are the moments you lived for. And now, I get to live them through you. Through your world. For you, Josh. Even if you wanted to be a woman, it no longer matters to me. But if you did, I'm glad you got to live as one through the game. Even if it was in another world. A fantasy world. Now it's clear to me that it wasn't just your own fantasy world, but a fantasy world shared by many others. You all make it feel so real. And if this world will end and it all shall perish, I now know who you truly were and how amazing you were. This one is all for you, Josh. You'll be proud of your mom yet.